Hey now! James Damore Part 2 may be upon us. A Microsoft program manager, a female Microsoft program manager has come out accusing Microsoft of discriminatory hiring practices against white and Asian males. Let's take a look. Some Microsoft employees are openly questioning whether diversity is important, in a lengthy discussion on an internal online messaging board meant for communicating with CEO Satya Nadella. Okay, so sounds a lot like James Damore already. Two posts on the board criticizing Microsoft diversity initiatives as discriminatory hiring and suggesting that women are less suited for engineering roles have elicited more than 800 comments. Oof. Big oof. I wonder if they actually said women are less suited for engineering roles, or if this is just another dishonest twisting of their words around like they did with James Damore. The posts were written by a female Microsoft program manager, so they can't even claim she's sexist. I'm just kidding. Of course they will. The internalized misogyny strikes again. Those poor women are just brainwashed by the evil American white patriarchy. Does Microsoft have any plans to end the current policy that financially incentivizes discriminatory hiring practices? To be clear, I am referring to the fact that senior leadership is awarded more money if they discriminate against Asians and white men. Wow. Okay, so this program manager is claiming that Microsoft will literally give managers bigger bonuses if they hire women and non-white and non-Asian men. That sounds like race discrimination 101. It's so crazy that we actually yearn for a time where these greedy corporations only cared about profits and didn't have morals. It's a mad, mad world. I have an ever-increasing file of white male Microsoft employees who have faced outright and overt discrimination because they had the misfortune of being born both white and male. This is unacceptable. I don't think they'll be able to fire her, the inevitable crap storm of publicity that would ensue. These corporate cowards want to avoid that at all costs. When contacted by courts, Microsoft pointed to comments by 3 company officials in the message board threads. A member of Microsoft's employee investigation team responded to the initial post in January, writing that the company does not tolerate discrimination of any kind. Okay, so that's good. Another Microsoft staff member, who leads the team that helps the board of directors determine executive pay, explained the diversity-based compensation initiative. So the first Microsoft drone is like, oh, no. We totally, don't tolerate discrimination of any kind. But then immediately after, the person who actually his job it is to determine pay is like, well, we do have a thing called the Diversity-Based Compensation Initiative, so, maybe we do. They said, our board and executive leadership team believe diverse and inclusive teams and consistent with our mission and inspire to culture, she wrote. Linking compensation to these aspirations is an important demonstration of executive commitment to something we believe strongly in. So the first corporate drone totally trying to provide cover for Microsoft's like, no, we don't discriminate. And then immediately after, the next Microsoft corporate drone comes in and is like, yeah, actually you do totally discriminate and give people money to discriminate based on sex and race. But it's okay. I'm going to couch the discrimination in like nice corporate progressive language so it doesn't actually sound like we're discriminating. I mean, this is crazy. They just flat out admitted that they link managers' pay to some kind of diversity quota. So there you go, white and Asian male employees at Microsoft. They made it real easy for you to sue them for discrimination. Oh, but you know what's really important about all this? Okay, social justice issues, all that stuff that we're worrying about, no. We're wasting our time. This is all just happening on college campuses, okay? We're just overreacting. We're making something out of nothing. That was my Ezra Klein impression, by the way. The internal debate over the merits of diversity come as Microsoft is grappling with an uproar over allegations of sexism and sexual harassment that some staff said the company hasn't adequately responded to over the years. It is also a powerful glimpse into internal dissent against efforts by the world's biggest tech companies to increase the numbers of women and people of color on staff, in the face of criticism that those groups are underrepresented, especially in the leadership ranks. You can have both those things, right? You can have diversity and sexual harassment. Okay, white and Asian men don't have less morals than anyone else. You can have a diverse management team and still have all these problems. I mean, these are separate issues. The Microsoft author echoes former Google employee James Damore, who in 2017 wrote a memo that went internally viral at Google, leaning on pseudoscience to argue that women aren't cut out for the tech industry. Okay, so now we see what side of the social justice bread the author is buttered on. And no, the memo doesn't argue on pseudoscience. Calling the Big Five personality test and evolutionary psychology pseudoscience really just shows the author of this piece doesn't care about facts that dare to go against their preconceived political notions. Damore was fired for breaching the company's code of conduct amid enormous public and internal controversy, and Google CEO Sundar Pichai wrote in a memo that the firing was due to advancing harmful gender stereotypes in our workplace. Yes, that's a very nice way of saying fired for a wrong thing. Below is a selection of comments from the Microsoft employee with the capitalization for emphasis in the original comments by the employee. Because women used to be actively prohibited from full-time employment many decades ago, there is now the misguided belief that women should work, and that if women aren't working, there's something wrong. That's a great point. I mean, there's often this overcorrecting error in human behavior. That's how I would define the entire current social justice movement. It's an overcorrection error. Many women simply aren't cut out for the corporate rat race, so to speak, and that's not because of the patriarchy, it's because men and women aren't identical, and women are much more inclined to gain fulfillment elsewhere. Statistically, that is where the evidence points, but you have to phrase it carefully. Neil deGrasse Tyson has a great bit about this, where he's like, oh, you have to always say some, but not all. Because there's always going to be some person that doesn't want to hear what you're saying, and they're going to be like, oh, well, I know the one person who's the exception to the rule that you're saying. So then you have to respond with, okay, that's fine, because I'm not saying everyone, I'm saying some, but not all. We still lack any empirical evidence that the demographic distribution in tech is rationally and logically detrimental to the success of the business and the industry. We have a plethora of data available that demonstrate women are less likely to be interested in engineering at all than men. And it's not because of any isms or phobia or unconscious bias. It's because men and women think very differently from each other, and the specific types of thought process and problem solving required for engineering of all kinds, software or otherwise, are simply less prevalent among women. This is an established fact. However, this established fact makes people very uncomfortable, because it suggests that the gender distribution in engineering might not actually be a problem, and thus women can no longer bleat about it being victims of sexism in the workplace. These facts are ignored in favor of meaningless platitudes our senior leadership team continues to shove down our throats. Example, we're not doing enough, and we clearly have a long way to go. So that's basically what Damore was saying as well. Women on average are just not as attracted to engineering jobs at the same rate that men are for biological reasons. And then that gets dishonestly twisted by social justice types claiming, oh, you're saying women are too stupid or not capable of being engineers, when that's obviously not what anyone's claiming. Even the author of the article does this. And the social justice advocates, they can't explain why women are now doing so well in highly competitive areas like law school and medical school and being lawyers and doctors. Why are women who were historically kept out of those areas for sexist reasons, why are women now excelling in those areas and doing so well despite past sexism? Why are programming and coding jobs the one magic area that sexism prevents women from joining? They have no answer for this. We must immediately cease the practice of attaching financial incentives and performance metrics to diversity hiring. As long as we give more money and higher annual reviews explicitly for not hiring/promoting white men and Asians, this will continue to be a serious problem at the company. And illegal, I would hope and imagine. As the controversy around Google's firing of Damore illustrated, it can be extremely contentious for companies to wade into disciplining employees for their personal views on such issues. They can face intense criticism for retaliating against individual speech because it's not politically correct. And if the company doesn't respond, critics can say they're not supporting an inclusive workplace. The abundance of online forums for employees to express their views is a complicating factor, as is the modern worker's high level of comfort for sharing their views online. You'll have to excuse me for my lack of sympathy for these poor Poor billion-dollar corporate entities jumping on the woke train. The latest posts aren't the only examples of active online opposition to concerns about diversity at Microsoft. In September of 2018, a female employee who had just graduated from university and joined Microsoft expressed concern on Yammer about the lack of gender diversity in her department. She posted that, "As a woman in software development, it really pains me to see the skewered gender ratio around me. I believe Azure Compute is less than 20% women." You know, there's a kind of hilarious irony because so much of the social justice narrative is exactly what this woman described. They look around and they say, hey, I want to see more people who share my race and my gender doing what I'm doing. And it's ironic because then they turn around and they criticize white people for having that same emotional reaction. When in reality, we should be socializing ourselves away from caring about race and gender. Which, yes, is difficult, but that used to be the worthwhile goal of the left. And now it seems like these new and young progressives, they just gave up. They're like, whatever, this is way too hard. We're just gonna go back to being racist and sexist. Okay, thanks. HR isn't trying to enforce the inclusive culture that they're talking about. One Microsoft employee who read the latest post by the program manager and responses to them told Quartz, HR, Satya, all the leadership are sending out emails that they want to have an inclusive culture, but they're not willing to take any action other than talk about it. They said, they allow people to post these damaging stereotypical things about women and minorities, and they do nothing about it. See, this is the problem with these people. Microsoft is literally paying their managers more money to discriminate against white and Asian men, but it's not enough. Because people are allowed to publicly voice thoughts that go against social justice narratives. That's how you know the, quote, slippery slope is real. These people feel completely comfortable to publicly announce their authoritarian desire with absolutely no shame.